Hey everybody, I am so excited today. We have another episode of Mr. Haig's class, and not only do I have a remarkable man over here, but I have a hero, and he'll explain to you his amazing journey from taking what was could have been a tragedy into something that is absolutely unbelievable. And I have here Mr. Damian Kevitt. Okay, did I say the last name right? Okay,
Did
and you
just
are the
fine.
president and CEO of I guess it's not the Safe Film Festival, but it's called SAFE. Streets Are for Everyone, which
Yeah.
is a nonprofit. So I'm going to go ahead and have you explain what that is.
Yeah. So SAFE is a road safety nonprofit. We work on road safety for all road users. So cyclists,
Mhm.
pedestrians, drivers, motorcyclists. It was started after my own tragedy. And
Yeah.
as you sort of referenced there,
Hmm.
in February of 2013, I was bicycling in Griffith Park. I was hit, pinned underneath a car, dragged nearly a quarter of a mile from the streets of Griffith Park onto and down the 5 freeway at freeway speeds. My right leg was ripped off, about 20 pounds of flesh in 2 minutes, 20 broken bones, 10 ribs. I shattered both my shoulders, my hips, my wrists, you name it. It was a hit and run. And the driver never stopped and was never caught. I was left in traffic lanes on the 5 freeway, fighting for my life. So that's kind of the background story of Safe and what inspired, I guess you could say. I don't know if it's inspired, it's a good word, but what prompted me to sort of understand how bad traffic violence is, how many people are being hit and seriously injured or killed. In LA County, it's an order of two every day are killed in LA County on average.
Wow.
Um, yeah, yeah. So this is, it's a major situation. And SAFE has become one of the leading nonprofits on the issues of road safety across California.
And I don't mean to go back to a very traumatic, but did you think you were going to make it? Did you think you were going to come out alive?
I did think about that.
Uh,
And I remember being underneath the car and looking up and knowing that I was being dragged and knowing that I was stuck underneath the car, not knowing how I was stuck, but just knowing that I had seconds to live or die. And sort of debating in my head, and people ask, well, I heard that when you're in these types of circumstances that time goes slow. It did. It was going quite slow. It was. I felt like I could sort of ponder, should I try to live or should I just let it go?
mhm.
And what would be the consequences? And would I be able to walk again? Would I make it? And deciding, my wife was, behind me, and she was riding her bike with me and was about 50 feet behind me, and friends and family. And I was just like, yeah, no, I'm gonna have to at least try to make it through this. So I did, and I survived, but I knew that I might not.
But and your wife watched it all. I mean, what kind of psychological trauma did she go through with all this? Or does she even have time to react and just like go see what you're doing, what's happening with you?
So we debated whether or not who was more traumatized, me or her. She didn't physically see me being dragged because I was underneath the car. She didn't know where I was. She saw that there was a collision with a car and then I disappeared. And that's all that she knew. And then she saw a car parked on the freeway. And she thought maybe that was the car that hit me. And somehow or another, I was down the freeway. She just sort of got that inkling. And so she rode her bike down the on ramp and down the freeway. And sure enough, I was there. The car that was parked on the freeway wasn't the car that hit me. That was a car that had stopped to protect me
Mhm.
on the freeway and use their vehicle as sort of a brace to make sure I wasn't hit by another driver. So, but yeah, she was traumatized. I mean, again, it was no fun for either one of us.
No, and the driver never stopped and never got caught, I guess.
No,
Wow.
no, but depending upon what religion and your faith, he's not going to have a happy existence. I mean, that's not going to be whether it's God or karma or whatever you want to say, that's not going to be fun. And that's sort of my way of coming to terms with the fact that he wasn't brought to justice. It's probably would have been a nicer outcome if he was caught and brought to justice for his actions, because then he at least could have the opportunity to take responsibility. But in this case, he's stuck with it the rest of his life.
Yeah, I for sure agree with you. But was he aware of what was happening? Was he even conscious of that there was a human being underneath his car?
That I get that asked a lot. And first of all, I started on the hood of his car. So he would have seen me on the hood. It was a short hood, it was a minivan. And so he would have seen me. And the next thing is, you know, you drive, of course. And have you ever like run over a palm frond or even a box and felt something lodge underneath your car and you can feel it. Even something fairly light. You can
I pull
feel that,
over.
yeah.
Hmm.
And running over something small. Can you imagine running over, a 200-pound body, with someone who's yelling and screaming underneath the car? And then when I got free, he essentially ran over me a second time.
Oh
So
my
can
God.
you imagine doing that and not knowing? No, there's no way he didn't possibly know that he had just done that and
Well,
was
you're
criminal on
right.
the count.
Justice is coming. Justice is coming to him. That's a horrible, horrible story. And you spent how long in the hospital? I would imagine for a long time.
4 months in the hospital, 11 surgeries. I walked out of the hospital on my prosthetic. And the next week, I got back on my bicycle and started relearning how to ride the very next week after I got out.
And with where you just left, comes an unbelievable mission that you put yourself in. I admire people who went through this devastating tragedy, and it was a tragedy.
Mm.
Not only that for yourself and for your family, but you turned it around and you turned it into something quite positive. And I guess that's the whole reason behind this podcast, because bad things will happen to all of us. Nobody's immune. And so for the teenagers out there, I would like you to explain where you went from there and where you are now.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single person who hasn't gone through life and experienced some degree of tragedy. I mean, and tragedy is relative. Is my tragedy more tragic than someone else's tragedy, or had to overcome some adversarial situation, whether it's cancer or otherwise. But it's really what you do after that, what you do with your life, whether you pick yourself up and either just keep going and make something out of it, or whether you turn it into something amazing. And I decided at first it was really sort of deciding to do it for the purposes of my own. Um, Honestly, it was for my purpose of my own benefit that I started what I did, and that's
Okay.
kind of funny sounding, but there is there's a therapeutic aspect of taking a tragedy and turning it into something good.
Hmm.
Not everyone can do that. I'm not saying that, that's an easy thing to do, but if you can take something that's horrific and turn it into something that's good, it almost acts as a therapeutic value. It actually helps you to heal. And I knew that. I knew that from even in the hospital. And so after I got out and really started to really understand how bad traffic violence is, how many people, hit and runs, especially LA has the highest percentage of hit and runs of any city in the US. Roughly 48% of all collisions in LA are hit and runs. And
Really?
yeah, 48%.
That's
Not
horrible.
all of those are individuals that are hit and killed or seriously
Mhm.
injured, but the point is the fact that it happens 48% of the time, that's a big deal. So I learning all of this, I was like, how do I turn this into something good? How do I use this to benefit myself and help others? And that's where the very first event came from, which is called Finish the Ride. And Finish the Ride became the organization Streets Are for Everyone. And I know I haven't said much about what the organization does, but that's the origin story. Yeah,
Well,
every Marvel hero needs an origin story, right?
right. So finish the ride is a race, or is it I guess is a journey where riders ride the streets of LA?
Yeah, so Finish the Ride. The very first one was me finishing the ride that I started that day and never finished.
Mhm.
And so with 600 cyclists, we finished the ride together. And we
Beautiful.
did it as an event to raise awareness of the need for safer roads, specifically focused on hit and runs. And that event generated so much media attention, 55 million impressions in media because of that event alone. And it helped to drop hit and runs by 16% in a single
Hmm.
year, between legislation and awareness and all of the things that contributed. It's not like the event itself did it, but everything connected with the event resulted in. Um, and that event became the organization. And we still do finish the ride events, which are rides. They're fun rides. These are not races. This is not first, second, third. This is a ride, an organized bike ride, and a run now. And thousands of people, close to 3,000 people, participate in these events every
That's
year.
fantastic. That's amazing. Well, I would probably ride because I know I won't finish if I ran, let alone walk. But I would definitely, I think that's so how long of a ride is it?
So for you, you'd have to do the 62-mile ride.
Whoa.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally joking. No, uh, we
I'll
have a
drive
number.
it.
Yeah. That would be called finished the ride. In other words, the ride finished you. No, we have a number of lengths, from 12 miles for
Hmm.
beginners and for family members, which is a great ride. Most people can do 12
Hmm.
miles, and it's nice
Hmm.
and flat and fast. And all the way up to a 62-mile ride is our longest one. And we have two of them a year now. We actually have one of them in Griffith Park, which is the original, which is
Hmm.
where I was hit. And then the second one is in Santa Clarita, and that's always a Halloween themed event.
And
And we just had that one. That was a blast.
oh, I'm sure that was a blast. So when you do these events and you go back to the point of impact, does it bring back any kind of feelings or emotions for you?
I would be lying to say that it doesn't. That said, I've been able to have my own counseling. I've been able to, I really feel like heal from a lot of that mental. I still have the scars, of course. I still have the physical and the mental scars, but I drive by there fairly frequently, in my commute or activities around Los Angeles. I ride by there, and I of course always pause. I always take just a moment, even if it's a split second, to just look and remember. But I luckily feel like I've healed enough that it doesn't bring flashbacks or cause distress for me,
Mhm.
as it could, and it does, with other people, when they go through an area where they've had a severe trauma.
Hmm. Now, let's talk about the film festival
Mm.
because the audience here are mostly teenagers. And you have, so why high school age students to do this film festival, which first of all, I think it's a fantastic, great idea, and that's a PSA in itself to educate students about the safetiness of driving. Because some of these kids, they're not very educated. I'm just saying that it's been I've been in it. I've submitted, and it has always been an inspiration. And I feel like as they're producing the film, they're learning a lot themselves. So, what inspired you to do this for specifically for teenagers? This is called a Safe Film Festival.
Streets Aren't Safe is the full title. It's a little tricky, and it's kind of intentionally tricky.
Okay.
When you got those titles that make you sort of like have to remember them. So yeah, Streets Aren't Safe, art as an artistic, and it is one aspect of what safe does. Um, some would argue, my wife would argue that it's the most important aspect of what safe does because she helps to lead all of that.
Hmm.
It is a wonderful high school only level film festival. And it started because, truthfully, I needed high quality public service announcements. I needed some high quality videos, to be able to use for potentially for education, to teach other high school students. High school students are really sort of the the prime time to educate on road safety because they're just learning how to drive or about to learn how to drive or they've just started to drive. So that's the most important time to sort of give understanding of some of the difficulties. They're also most at risk. High school students from ages roughly 16 through 29 are the most at risk of getting involved in a serious injury or fatality. In fact, that is the leading cause of death for youth in California is traffic collisions. So
Mhm.
we really wanted to focus on that, but I needed some high quality PSAs, and who better to go to get high quality PSAs to teach high school students than high school students because
Exactly.
students are super creative
It
and
is.
they are, they're thinking outside the box already. They're not sort of, they haven't been ground down by the ins and outs of life, and they're looking at things with different fresh perspectives, and that's what we want, and that's what we get with this film festival. Not every PSA is, the most amazing PSA ever. Some of them are just normal sort of PSAs, and that's fine. Those are great. That's a learning experience for them. But we get some incredible videos, just truly incredible,
We
all done by
do.
high school students. I mean,
You,
next level.
you do. Now, some of these students, do they go on to becoming film producers or filmmakers? I would imagine a lot of them might be, that would attract that kind of student.
Yeah, so we have students, and honestly, we don't require that you have to be some, dedicated filmmaker student to be involved. We've had students win who literally this was their very first film they've ever done, and they've never been involved in filmmaking, and yet they won a category, they won, some aspect of the competition. And we've had students who are really dedicated as filmmakers and just love filmmaking. And we've had a number of students who've gone on. In fact, we heard from one of those students the other day who said, "Hey, that's how I got my start in filmmaking.
Mhm.
And I am now doing this professionally because of that was my first introduction." Um, so that, that's kind of cool. And I know a number of students who are either going on to film school, who are involved in video or photography, independently or otherwise, and we're pretty proud of that. That's
No,
that's
I'm
a
very proud because actually one of my students did. She participated in the film festival about so I'm going to say 8 years ago, 7 years ago. It was we were at Gladstone High School at that time, and her name is Jimena, and I'm hoping she's listening to this because Jimena actually won third prize for her film, and all of a sudden, a few years later, she's got a full scholarship to Chapman University. School of Film, the Dodge School of Film. And she just recently graduated and now working, yes, definitely. Thanks, God, Jimena. And she's working for YouTube TV, which is quite, and it all started with your film festival, which is really powerful. And so much talent, undiscovered talent can be brought up if people can go ahead and encourage to be able to create this. But also, I think it's important to note that we do it because of the message, not so much because you want to be a movie star or director, Hollywood kind of guy or girl. You want to do it because of the message, and that's my focus. Is because it's the days, the years of joyriding on the streets are over. It's bad out there. With do you find that the biggest problem with drivers right now are the cell phones, distracted driving?
there's so many different problems that are big problems. Um, Cell phones and distracted driving is a huge factor, and we believe is actually, and I don't have 100% concrete proof of this, but there is sort of evidence that shows that the use of cell phones is driving the reason why there is since 2010 been an increase in fatalities across the U.S. year after year.
Yeah.
It goes up and down in a few years here and there, but um, the United States is the only country, compared to other first world countries across the world, that is having more fatalities due to traffic violence. Every other country, the number of fatalities are decreasing. And we believe that a huge factor in that is distracted driving, phones, um, things that are distracting you from just driving. And
Hmm.
just realize, so I don't mean to be all doom and gloom on this here, but a vehicle is a 2-ton weapon. You
Yeah.
can kill someone with a vehicle. And if you don't drive it, in other words, if you're not paying attention to what's happening to that vehicle and the vehicles around you at all points in time, you are at risk. That is the simplicity of it. If you were flying a plane, you wouldn't hop off flying the plane and be like, hold on, I'm going to text my mom
Hmm.
and then go back to flying the plane. You would just fly the plane because you know if you don't, something bad could happen. Unfortunately, that view isn't always the same with vehicles. So that's not the only major factor, but it is definitely one of the biggest.
So do you think that driverless vehicles would be a solution? How about taking the control away from the person?
So driverless vehicles are obviously they're on the roads now in a few major cities.
Hmm.
We have actually consulted with one of the major companies in terms of safety factors and working with them to make sure that those driverless vehicles are safe around, especially pedestrians and cyclists
Hmm.
outside of the vehicle. The problem with driverless vehicles, one, we do generally support them. It does make like they are by stats safer. Not every company is the same to every company. So, for example, we would not endorse the Tesla robotaxis because their quality and their safety features are actually very minimal compared to most other driverless vehicles. And I don't know how they're allowed on the roads as a driverless, fully autonomous vehicle because they're not. They don't have the same level of safety. That
Hmm.
said, Waymos are considered fairly safe. Doesn't mean they're perfect, but they're much safer than the average human driver. And then there's other ones out there as well that are major autonomous vehicle
Right.
companies. You know, the problem with that is you set up a situation, at least for the time being, where um, those that have the money and those that can afford it could then potentially have driverless vehicles, and those that can't, the average working person would
Hmm.
not have that ability, and that sets up still its own problems. And so really the solution is to have safe roads and safe drivers,
Well, yeah,
and it doesn't
responsibility.
matter.
That's the key. I
Yeah.
mean, driving is a responsible act. I think you're right. I mean, these driverless cars and these, electric cars, they're pricey. 50,000, 60,000. Who can afford that these days? I mean, people can barely afford their tuition. So I think that the responsibility and more organizations like what you like Safe Streets are for everyone, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's really the critical key to raising awareness. Do you think we'll get there? Do you think that we are going to eventually have a situation where, you know what, I'm gonna drive. I'm gonna put this phone down. I don't want to be bothered. I mean, I guess we have AI right now that answers the phones for you, and of course, hey Siri, call mom. Oh, no, Siri just went off.
Yeah, you just set my Siri off too.
So sorry. But yeah, so it's I mean, do you think that we'll ever get to that point? I personally think we will. But what do you think?
So my job is in the arena of traffic safety. I would be why work in this area if I felt like we could never get there?
Hmm.
So the answer, of course, is yes. Are we close now? No, we're not even close. We are so far away on many different areas, whether it's drunk or drugged driving and the where the laws and the problems connected with that, and speeding. Speeding is the single largest factor behind serious injuries and fatalities across LA, California, across the entire US. It's speeding is the factor. So um, distracted driving is a huge factor as well, but it's also hard to, sort of just track distracted driving. It's not like people go around hitting other people and go, I'm sorry, I was texting on my phone. No one's going to admit that. So it's hard to really sort of tell how much that really is a factor, but it's a big factor. And all of those, if those were eliminated, those would make a huge difference in terms of making the roads safer. Just those three items. The design of roads themselves can make a difference in terms of whether or not a road itself can be designed to be dangerous or it can be designed to be safe. And and that's something that a lot of people don't realize, that the design itself influences the safety of those on the road, whether you're a driver or a pedestrian or a cyclist.
And not meaning to put you on the spot, but can you name the most dangerous roads in Southern California?
Oh, I was about to go across the US.
Okay, let's
Southern
go across
Cal-
the US. Sure.
There is a route from Tampa to Orlando that is considered to be the absolute most dangerous highway across the
The
entire
Turnpike?
US. What's that?
Is that the Turnpike, the Florida Turnpike?
I don't remember if it's a turnpike,
Okay.
but it is the main route between Tampa and Orlando. And it's believed that is a factor because Orlando is a tourist destination.
Mhm.
There's potentially a lot of tourists, but also just people. The laws in Florida are very lax. There's a number of factors that contribute to that road being dangerous, but it is literally considered a death trap. It is known as being the most dangerous, and that's a stretch of highway in Los Angeles specifically, across Southern California. You have major roads, primarily in South LA. So this is an interesting thing that most people don't realize is that in the lower socioeconomic communities, you have the most dangerous roads. And
Interesting.
so the traffic violence is actually clustered in the areas where people have the least amount of resources.
So 101, Hollywood?
So we've got Figueroa, Central, Avalon, Western, Vermont, a lot of the north-south roads, some of the crossing
Mhm.
roads as well. Crenshaw, no, Crenshaw's not that one, but
Okay.
MLK's one. But a lot of those north-south roads,
Mhm.
especially going through South LA, are dangerous. And there's a number of factors. I could go into technicalities. I don't want to bore all of your students with that because I'll just take another 15 minutes just talking about all the technicalities of it there.
Well, I
But
mean, if it's
that
worth
is a
it.
fact, and there's reasons. It's not just an accident as to why those are so dangerous. They're actually designed to be more dangerous, and
On purpose?
based off of history. Yeah,
So they want people to die?
I'm not saying they want people to die. I'm saying when they were designed as high-speed roads cutting through a dense population of people
Okay.
as thoroughfares to get through those communities, not necessarily for the safety of the community. And so the result is now in present time, you still have roads that have more and more cars and more pedestrians and
Mhm.
cyclists and people trying to get places. And it's still a high speed road.
Yep. I've been through Beverly Hills, I've been through Hollywood, and I've seen these. Crenshaw is dangerous. Wilshire is dangerous. And these are these high speed roads because there's certain spots that you just go straight and it looks like it's wide, and I see drivers just go, it's a speedway.
Yeah,
And yeah, basically I'm aware of that. I mean, I try to stay on the far right side and just let the people go through because it's that dangerous. That's interesting because they were more concerned about getting from point A to point B at a faster rate than allowing people or making sure that people are going to be safe driving these places.
that's right.
So are
And
you working with politicians?
that is something that we are working on changing, and we have made some significant progress.
Hmm.
Is it solved? Do we have, is everything made safer? No. But the truth is, there is a general shift in view. And I'll tell you, you, Jim, and those that are listening to this can make a difference simply by telling others, simply by communicating that things like, hey, this road is dangerous and it needs to be made safe, or just by telling other people that, hey, put the phone down and traffic violence is preventable. That's a fact. By actual study, 92 to 95% of the collisions that happen are 100% preventable. In other words, they were distracted driving, the road was designed badly, they were drunk, they were speeding, there was something that was happening that was making it dangerous. And then they got into a collision. And that's just a scientific fact. It's not an accident. These are not just oops. I oops was drinking and driving. I oops was distracted driving and hit and killed someone. It's not an oops. That is traffic violence. So by even communicating about this, you can make a difference because the more people that demand safer roads and say this is not acceptable, the easier it is for me to do my job and to make elected officials and to make government agencies invest in the safety of the community.
But are you getting through to is it more important to get through the state politics or the city or everybody, I guess? for that matter.
Both, because the city controls certain types of roads,
Mhm.
the state controls certain types of roads, the state sets state laws, the city sets local laws, the city does the design of the roads for certain types. So it's all levels. And so please, everyone listening to this, mention the fact to at least one other person. Hey, did you know that you can design a road to be safe, or you can design it to be dangerous? You can
Mhm.
design it to be deadly, or you can design it to save lives. And did you know that traffic violence is the leading cause of death for youth, for kids, for teenagers, the
Mhm.
ones who might be listening to this right now? You are more likely to die from a traffic collision than from any other reason.
Well, take note, Mayor Bass, and take note, Governor Newsom, because I mean, this is a very serious matter. Uh, we want it because we know LA is a big traffic zone. It takes a long time, and if we're late, I mean, I've seen single drivers get into the carpooling, because they're afraid of what's at the other end. When really, they're afraid of they're confronting their teachers, they're afraid of confronting their bosses, their spouses. So it's more of a risk. They would rather face the risk of getting a traffic ticket than the wrath of what's on the other side. When indeed, what's on the other side could be their death. It could be a
It's true.
major traffic accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Well, the website is what's the website?
So for the organization, it's Streets Are for Everyone. So
.org.
streets are for everyone. AREFOREVERYONE. So that's fully spelled out.
Mm-hmm.
The film competition, you can find it from the website, but it
Yep.
also has its own web address as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Streets, STREETS,
Mm-hmm.
Art, ART, Safe, SAFE,
All right,
and
safe.
.org. Those are both .orgs. And you can find out about the film competition. You can find out more about what SAFE does, whether it's our statewide policy or local
Mm-hmm.
advocacy, victim support services. We do a lot of other things, but the film competition is really just fun and amazing. And by the way, I don't think I said this. We've gone national. This last year, we went national. This year, we
Mm-hmm.
have multiple states. So you are now competing not only
Oh,
against schools in
wow.
your region, when we do have regional awards.
Mm-hmm.
So don't give up hope just because you're, one of so many students. We actually have regional awards. We have statewide competitions, and now we have multiple states involved. So you're actually competing against high school students across the entire country.
Well, I do this not to win. I do this to raise awareness. That's really the whole mission for me. If we win, that's awesome. If we get nominated, that's even more awesome. And we've been nominated for several categories. But more importantly is that we are raising the awareness of saving lives. One of the short films we're going to make is awareness of flying objects, a drone crashing. I can't tell you, I really got on my students. One of them decided they're going to take a drone and fly it over the freeway. I said, no, you are not doing that. Okay. Because that's so dangerous for everybody and it's against the law. And so in parking lots and it's just overall dangerous to be flying a drone in traffic. And I want to raise awareness about that because I'm a drone enthusiast, but I never ever fly where there are cars. I always fly in an open field or, up the mountains or the beach, whatever the case may be. So at any rate, so with that being said, it's been my utmost pleasure and I definitely honor you in so many ways because of what you went through and where you were and where you are now. You're an inspiration. You really are. And I have to say thank you so much and send my regards to your beautiful wife. And I know you two are busy with this film festival and with other competitions. So Streets are for Everyone, they not only have film festivals, but you also have art competitions too, posters
Yep.
and things like that. So this man is a true saint. So with that being said, this is Mr. Hayes' class. This will be available. The websites for all that Damien had mentioned will be available on our YouTube, and and we are going to be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So stay tuned for that.